No Buzz. A Just Bees book club. Um, Faltas by Cecilia Gentili. Um, I don't know that I can say anything more about this book than what the subtitle says. But yeah, this is a book called Faltas. It's a memoir. Uh, the subtitle of which is "Letters to Everyone in My Hometown Who Isn't My Rapist." It's a collection of, I believe, eight. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Hey, I got it. It's 8 letters written. One gets the sense as a sort of therapeutic exercise to various people from the author's hometown about growing up in 1970s Argentina, about growing up as a trans girl, about growing up as a victim of child sexual assault over the course of an extremely long time, about joy, about unleashing, or about coming to terms with the truth of what happened, and how that implicates people that you might not have necessarily thought throughout your life were at fault, but who certainly were. It's about so many things. It is not the hardest I've ever cried at a book, but certainly up there, and certainly, whew, um, I read this in one day. I read this in one day. I started it when I got to work, and I read in like little 5-minute increments while I'm at work. Plus, the break, uh, the 30-ish minute lunch, and fuck me. When I got off work, I went to the watering hole, and I guess to say this structurally, like the first 4 letters are these really, really, really hard things to read, but like, they're. Maybe I'll back up before I even get to that point. Okay. Backing up before I get to that point. Structurally, what I found extremely interesting about this book, it is just these 8 letters. There's no interstitials. There's literally one postscript. That's still part of the letter, but that's like the most it veers from its format. There's no framing. It's literally like table of contents, next page, title page, Faltas, next page, Rosanna, next page, Dear Rosanna. And this stays true the entire time. It is literally just these letters, which is the thing I found extremely impactful. I'm an absolute sucker for, one of my favorite books that I read. One of my favorite books from last year, which is when this came out, was The Furrows by Namali Serpell. That's a very different thing, but her earlier book, The Old Drift, it is this really beautiful, like extremely long, not extremely long, but like a real decent sized historical novel about sort of the historical construction of Zambia, that moves between modes, that sort of starts in this extremely historical fiction mode, and then sort of hops over to magical realism that jumps through genres, that does all this stuff, but is like sort of woven together by way of this sort of like buzzing chorus, this like Greek chorus style, that you learn at the end is like a very different thing than what it seems to be at the front. But like what it seems to be at the front is like a bunch of mosquitoes basically saying like, here we are the arbiters of, or not the arbiters of history, but we are the truth of history throughout this country, and uh, and like that novel I love. I love everything Sabella's written. Um, but that novel specifically came together for me by way of these sort of like high concept interludes. This book has none of that, and it fucked me up. That's usually what fucks me up. That's usually what fucks me up. So Gentili, like, I should have looked up how she pronounces her name before I started recording this, but you know, it's one take, baby. And it's just for bees, so no one's watching except for bees. The first four letters are fucking hard, and I would extremely recommend. I've been thinking about this in terms of just, you know, like my fucking day job as a bookseller, and sometimes I inadvertently think in those terms when I'm not at work. But like one of the things I was thinking of is like, you know, these first four are probably extremely hard for people to read. The fifth and the sixth are the ones that made me openly cry in public. I don't know that anyone would have recognized that as what was happening, but it is true nonetheless. I think those two are also the ones that I would recommend people jump to if they're finding the earlier ones too intense. Because it turns out the thing that makes me actually fucking break down is or at least in this case, is the moment of when something extremely hard is happening and somebody also is able to find like genuine love in that extreme difficulty, and is able to express both of those things at the same time. This is also, you know, not to just do a bunch of comps that aren't comps at all, but like, this is Sorrowland for me. This is Rivers Solomon's fucking incredible novel from 2021, I think. It's the last time I just openly cried in public. And again, I don't think anyone saw, and I think that's fine. You know, it's fine. But in that book, there's a scene that for all of the fucked up things that have happened prior to it, there's a scene in which people get to engage in queer sex that is historicized. There's this joy, there's this beauty of writing, and there is this overwhelming sense of the shittiness of the world. And I can read all about the shittiness of the world forever and be like, yes, like bring it into me 100%. I can read about moments of joy and be like, yes, this is part of me now. There's a particular alchemy when like those two things mix with the voice of the writer. And in Solomon's case, it's an example of just like incredible prose writing, of just like, again, not again as in I've said this today, but like again as in this is the thing I say constantly. Sentence by sentence, Sorrowland is incredible. It's not that there's no wasted words, not that there's no, you know, there's not an economy of prose necessarily, but like every time I read a sentence in Sorrowland, I go, yes. The words in this order, taken together, taken with the context of the other words that have happened so far, taken into the context of the world as I understand it, and you know, wish it to be or not to be. They produce an effect on me that is like a kind of beauty. This is not where I meant to be at this point. um, I think Faltas also does that, and I wanted to sort of describe what I mean by the good prose writing, because this is a very different kind of book, right? Like, obviously, this is not fiction. It's not speculative fiction. It's a series of letters written almost maybe mostly to people who are no longer accessible by the author. There's a couple of exceptions there. By accessible, I mean I'm trying to use that word in a very broad way. But to get back to my point, I think other people probably have a harder time with the first four letters than I necessarily did, because again, I can take on a lot of fucked up things, for a variety of reasons, as we all can have different capacity for different things. The ones that fuck me up are the ones I might actually recommend people read if they're having an okay time with this book, or they started it and they're just not feeling it, because those are the ones that bring in this joy. These are the letters to Juan Pablo and to Abu. Abu? I don't know how the stress goes in Argentinian Spanish for the word for grandma. um, but those two back to back, after all of the things we learn about Gentili's life. Gentili probably is slightly more accurate. Whatever. Sorry. They bring in that joy, that being seen in imperfect ways that are exactly what you need when you're younger and forever. Into that cocktail in a way that's just like, it fucked me up, man. It fucked me up. I didn't do a best books of 2022 last year. And the answer is The Furrows by Serpell. But if I had read this last year, this would have been top 3, I think. I read 100 books last year, something like that. That's not true. I read 57 or something like that. Whatever. I think this book is special. I'm extremely glad, because it's been floating around my periphery for months and months and months at this point, and I want more people to read this book. And I don't think for selfish reasons. I don't really want to talk about it much. I just think it's extremely affecting. I think the voice that Gentili writes in is it reads as extremely authentic. The structure of the thing is interesting. The subject matter is extremely heartrending in a bunch of different ways. I don't know. I think this is a good book. I think it's a good book. Thanks for not watching.